All right, before we start, the City Council just met on 2 closed session items, and there is nothing to report out at this time. Good evening, and thank you for viewing the June 17th meeting of the Arcata City Council. The City Council meeting is being held a hybrid meeting with both in-person attendance and teleconference via Zoom. The City of Arcata acknowledges that the lands that we are located are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Wiyot tribe. The land that Arcata rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments remove the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threaten to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Arcata acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement seeks to aid in dismantling the legacy narratives of settler colonialism. If you would like, please join now for the flag salute. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor White,
Present.
Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar,
Here.
Councilmember Matthews,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Here.
Councilmember Stillman,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. If you wish to make a comment during the meeting, either for an individual agenda item or during the second oral and written communications period under agenda item number 11, there are 3 ways to do so. 1, if you're here in person, please line up behind the podium when the item you wish to speak on is accepting public comment. 2, if you were logged on Zoom, please raise your hand when it is time for public comment on the item that you wish to speak on. And 3, if you're on the phone, press star 9 on your phone and raise your hand, and when it is your turn, you'll be prompted to dial star on your phone. For these items, we will be taking in-person public comment first, and then we will move to the online comments. We will not be going back and forth. So if you are wanting to comment, please line up at the podium or raise your electronic hand as soon as public comment is requested for that item. That brings us now to ceremonial matters. Proclamation in recognition of Juneteenth, June 19th, 2026. And it'll be read by Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you. In recognition of Juneteenth, June 19th, 2026, whereas the City of Arcata recognizes Juneteenth as an important day in American history, marking the date in 1865 when the last enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas were informed of their freedom, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. And whereas Juneteenth stands as a symbol of freedom, resilience, and the ongoing journey towards justice and equality for Black Americans. And whereas Black residents of Humboldt County have made and continue to make significant contributions to the cultural, educational, civic, and economic life of our region, often in the face of historical and ongoing barriers, including underrepresentation and experiences of racial bias. And whereas acknowledging our shared history and the realities of past and present inequities is essential to building a more inclusive and thriving community for all. And whereas the City of Arcata supports continued efforts to ensure equitable access to opportunity for Black residents, including the pursuit of strategies to improve access to education, economic development, housing, and land-based initiatives. And whereas Juneteenth is an opportunity not only to reflect on the struggles for freedom and civil rights, but also to celebrate the strength, creativity, and leadership of Black communities throughout our region and the nation. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby recognizes June 19th, 2026 as Juneteenth and encourages all residents to reflect on the meaning of this day and to learn from our collective history and to support efforts that advance equity, inclusion, and opportunity for all, especially Black residents who have helped shape the fabric of our community. And that's dated June 17th, 2026, and that is signed by our Mayor, Kimberly White. And today we have from Black Humboldt, we have Taikisha, who's the collective building innovator, and Ra, who's the arts and culture innovator.
Good evening and thank you. Thank you. On behalf of Black Humboldt and the many community members who continue to pour into the work of Black empowerment, enlightenment, and entertainment, we are happy to accept this proclamation in recognition of Juneteenth 2026. Juneteenth is more than a date on the calendar. It is a reminder that freedom has never simply been handed down. Freedom has been dreamed of, organized for, fought over, protected, celebrated, and passed forward by Black communities across generations. It asks us to remember the truth in our history while also asking what kind of future we are brave enough to build. For Black Humboldt, that work is local and deeply necessary. We exist because Black and brown communities on the North Coast deserve more than survival. We deserve spaces where our joy is not an afterthought, where our culture is not treated as a special occasion, where our leadership is trusted and invited to co-build, where our children can see themselves reflected, and where our people can gather without having to shrink, translate, or explain who we are. Culturally affirming space is not a luxury. It is a form of safety, health, and self-determination. It allows communities to name our own needs and design our own solutions, tell our own stories, and build the kind of programs, gatherings, and institutions that reflect who we are and what we deserve. That is the work Black Humboldt is committed to. Through our Juneteenth Cultural Festival, which started today, we will continue through this weekend, is a culmination of all of our hard work and passion. We create space for Black celebration, art, music, food, history, healing, and connection. This year's festival theme, Honoring the Past to Seed the Future, reminds us that remembrance is not passive. When we honor the past, we are planning a future where Black and brown communities have the resources, space, and autonomy we need to thrive. But Juneteenth is only one part of the ecosystem that we are building.
Black Humboldt is also working to grow youth leadership through programs that give young people the opportunity to build skills, organize with purpose, explore culture, and step into their own power. We are investing in Black and brown artists through exhibitions, showcases, cultural programming, and our arts and legacy work, which helps preserve community memory, oral histories, and creative traditions that too often go undocumented. We're supporting Black and brown entrepreneurs through business development, vendor opportunities, market spaces, and our Black business funds, because economic empowerment is part of liberation work. We are continuing to build wellness and mutual aid programming that responds to real community needs from culturally grounded healing spaces to food access, resource sharing, and community care. We are also dreaming bigger through the vision for Black Humboldt Innovation Hub. We are working towards a permanent home for this work, a space that can hold events, programs, shared resources, development, cooperative projects, and community-led solutions under one roof, a place where our people can build, learn, rest, organize, celebrate, and create. This is what Black Humboldt is building, not just events, but infrastructure. Not just programs, but pathways. Not just moments of celebration, but a living ecosystem of care, culture, memory, and possibility. We have seen what becomes possible when a community is given room to breathe. We have seen young people step into leadership. We've seen artists feel witnessed. We have seen families find connection. We have seen elders share history. We have seen entrepreneurs grow their dreams. We have seen people walk into a room and realize, sometimes for the first time in a long time, this was made with us in mind. That is the impact of Black Humboldt. Today, we accept this proclamation with gratitude and also with an invitation. We invite the city of Arcata, local businesses, organizations, institutions, funders, and community members to support this work, not only with words, but with resources, partnership, sponsorship, volunteer time, in-kind donations, spaces, services, and presence. Support the 2026 Juneteenth Cultural Festival, sponsor a youth leader, invest in Black and brown businesses and artists, show up to our events, share our work, bring your people, and offer what you can. Proclamations matter because public recognition matters, but recognition must also be paired with investment. When we invest in Black-led cultural work, we invest in the health of the whole region. When we support culturally affirming spaces, we strengthen the social fabric of our cities, our county, and our collective future. May this recognition be a commitment to continue showing up for Black community, for cultural equity, for racial justice, and for the freedom work that Juneteenth represents. And may it remind us that liberation is not a finished story. It is something we practice, protect, fund, celebrate, and build together. Thank you for honoring Juneteenth. Thank you for recognizing Black Humboldt. And thank you to every person who continues to help us honor the past and see the future. And hopefully we see you all at Juneteenth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you for that. All right, now we will have a certificate of appreciation for Michael Furness for his over 17 years of service to the city of Arcata. This certificate of appreciation will be read by Council Member Alex Stillman.
Thank you. So the certificate of appreciation for Michael Furness for over his 17 years of service to the city of Arcata. Whereas Michael Furness was first appointed to the Forest Management Committee on July 31st, 2008, and served diligently through March 2026, serving as chair from February 2014 to February 2017, and again from July 2024 through March 2026. And whereas Michael's background in hydrology and watershed science, and with his abounding spanning experience in realms of climate change and carbon markets were indispensable to his approach as a committee member. And whereas Michael's holistic approach to sustainable forest management was focused on ensuring the ecological, social, and economic components of community-based forestry were always at the forefront of managing the Arcata community forest. And whereas Michael's role as the adjunct professor at Cal Poly Humboldt helped expand student involvement and experience in the ground assessing forest roads and infrastructure in Arcata's community forests. And whereas the Forest Management Committee includes members with expertise across a range of forestry topics, Michael's broad experience and expertise in watershed science and carbon sequestration combined with a deep love of Arcata will leave a lasting legacy on the city's approach to management of the community forests. And whereas the council and his fellow community members and staff wish to thank Michael for his significant contributions, dedicated service, and engaging annual reports to the council over the past 17 years and more. And we will miss Michael at committee meetings at 7 a.m. And now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby expresses its appreciation to Michael Furness for serving the people of Arcata for the past 17 years, and we wish him the best and commemorate his release from service as of March 31st, 2026, signed by Kimberly Mayer and dated today. And Emily, will you be accepting that?
Well, Furness, I am very sorry that he is not here to hear that recognition in person. As the Environmental Services Department, we greatly appreciate the important role of committee members on our many committees. And Michael has been serving for over 15 years, 17 years, will continue to make a positive impact in the Arcata community. And thank you very much for the time to celebrate him and the recognition of all the great work of our committees.
Thank you, Emily. All right, that brings us to report by committee commissions. Do we have any reports today? And then we will go to staff reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to city business and shall not request or lead to any action by city council at this meeting. And then we will go to oral and written communication. So the city values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. This early section of public comment is limited to 15 minutes and speakers are limited to 2 minutes each. If you prefer to have a full 3 minutes of time for your public comment, this item is continued at the end of the meeting under item 12 where speakers are granted 3 minutes. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. There will also be time to provide public comments specific to each item when that item is being reviewed by council. Please make your way up to the podium now.
Greetings, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I'm physically hurting a bit, so I might not be able to stay to the end. So you get just 2 minutes of my speaking here. I was given back this book about climate issues, and I'm going to be looking at it tonight and thinking about how our community can proceed in a really creative and an inviting way and promoting everyone to take part in making a difference, a positive difference in the community when it comes to climate action and the environment. I took the bus today, as I do often. I've ridden my e-bike. I walk a lot, although I'm hurting right now. So I do think that we should, as community, be promoting, especially at events, alternative ways to get there, alternative ways to wine and dine, so to speak, or drink beer and oysters and all those things in terms of going further than just disposable, compostable, single use, and really getting into the reuse component. Yesterday was refill, World Refill Day, and I went to the co-op and refilled my containers with nuts and chocolate and stuff and things like that. So, there's more I could say, but I really do want the city of Arcata, when we talk about committees and commissions, to think about a peace and justice committee that could talk about some of the things people like me are asking for, which is like a international city of peace membership, joining the nonviolent city project. Nonviolence in our city is really important that we should be promoting. And then compassion, charter for compassion. So thank you, and there you go.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else in person that would like to make a public comment? If not, do we have anyone on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom.
All right, thank you. That brings us to the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. A, approve, waive reading of text and consent to read by title only for any ordinance on this agenda. B, approve the minutes of the City Council special meeting of June 3rd, 2026. C, approve the minutes of City Council meeting of June 3rd of 2026. D, bi-weekly report on disbursements. E, make a continued finding that emergency procurement to repair filed culverts at 4700 West End Road is necessary and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. F, approve the project plans and award a contract for the First Street Lift Station Improvement Project to Wayland Construction Incorporated in the amount of $1,696,650, adopt a categorical CEQA exemption and approve necessary and associated related actions. G, adopt resolution number 256-70, approving a letter of agreement between the City of Arcata and Operating Engineers Local 2 to amend the 2025 through 2027 Memorandum of Understanding regarding medical benefits and authorize the city manager to execute all documents. H, approve a contract amendment with SHN Consulting Engineers for $20,870 for environmental support services around Phase 1 of the Arcata Wastewater Treatment Facilities Upgrade Project, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. I, approve purchase of valves from Frank A. Olson Company for the First Street Lift Station Improvement Project in the amount of $89,505.58 and approve necessary related actions. J, award a research contract in the amount of $89,300 to Cal Poly Humboldt Sponsored Programs Foundation for academic and engineering services at the Arcata wastewater treatment facility and approve necessary associated related actions. K, authorize the purchase of 3 AVTech radio dispatch consoles from the Day Wireless Systems in the amount of $169,549, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. And L, approve a contract amendment in the amount of $307,482 to GHD Incorporated for the additional engineering and design services for the US 101 Sunset Avenue Interchange Improvements Project, and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents. M, approve a contract amendment with Carollo Engineers in the sum of $310,100 for construction management and inspection services for the Phase 1 Arcata wastewater treatment facilities upgrade project, and authorize the city manager to execute all documents. Whew. Would any council member or staff like to remove an item from the consent calendar?
I'd like to remove F, please.
Okay. Do we have any members of the public waiting to comment on any consent calendar items? If so, please line up at the podium now or raise your hand on Zoom for public comment on the consent calendar. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I looked at this extensive consent calendar and had the opportunity to speak to the city manager prior to this meeting about my concern on huge dollar amounts being discussed on the consent calendar. And we agreed that it sometimes is difficult when there's so much on the agenda to try and take huge dollar items out of a consent calendar. But hopefully we can find ways so that people can better understand what we're spending money on, where we're getting that money, and why we need to do what we're doing with that money. And I would be happy to work with people to figure out a better way to present information to the public on these kinds of heavy-duty, highly expensive projects that I understand can be quite necessary to take place, but I just want to say out loud again, consent calendar items should hopefully not be on big ticket items, and we should have an opportunity to discuss them.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other members in the public who'd like to speak on this item? If not, do we have anyone on Zoom?
Yes, we have one hand on Zoom.
Thank you.
Dan, please go ahead.
Hey, council. Just want to second what Joanne McGarry just said. When we've got huge dollar items, I mean, we're talking about some of these items are over $1 million, and many of them are tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. It probably makes sense to treat them as separate line items, and is absolutely something that you should consider in order to provide more transparency into these issues, especially in a time when we have looming budget issues. Oops, thank you.
Thank you for your comment. There is nobody else? Okay, thank you. So do we have a motion to adopt the consent calendar with the exception of item F?
So move.
I will second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Stillman and a second from Councilmember Schaefer. If there's no discussion on the motion before we vote, okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And I say aye, so passes unanimously. All right. F, here we go.
Sure. I just I only pulled it because of the high dollar item. I thought people might want to know, so thank you.
Great. So the First Street improvement project is for a key sewer facility. It's located in the South G Street neighborhood at Rotary Park. And in the winter, it's an essential facility that really brings wastewater all the way from Bayside and Sunnybrae over and to the wastewater treatment facility. It is composed of very outdated pumps, in particular natural gas pumps, and many in the neighborhood can likely attest when we have higher rains and that station is running a lot, it is very loud. So that is one impact to the neighborhood. The other impact is really that our staff no longer can purchase parts to make repairs because they're that outdated. This has been a capital improvement program project for many years, at least over 5 or 6. With all the other infrastructure priorities, we really finally got a chance this past fiscal year to finalize the designs. So that will upgrade the pumps to electrical pumps. That'll be, in alignment with our shifting towards reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and also have a much more reliable sewer facility, in particular of staying in compliance with our sewer collection system and hopefully better outcomes for the neighborhood as well. This is to approve the plans, and then we also put out a bid for construction. Fortunately, we got good bids that came in, within range of our engineer's estimate, and we're really excited to move the project forward. And we're working on a tight timeline to try to make progress before the next winter.
Thank you, Emily.
And just one additional comment for Councilmember Atkins Salazar. We are looking very closely at items, and as I mentioned in a conversation with Ms. McGarry earlier, we are looking at any items over 200,000, and if they're anything but routine, we're trying to pull those. We had a packed agenda, so tonight was a little bit different than what you've been seeing, where we've been pulling items of higher dollar amounts off. And so I just wanted to let the council and the public know that we do hear that, and generally we're trying to follow a rule to bring higher dollar amount items as separate business items. And so we hear the council, we hear the community on that, and we're making an effort to do that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I did add up the dollar amount for the full consent calendar, and it's $2,683 on the consent calendar, which is a lot. And I know I had a conversation with you about this as well. And I know that in the staff report, it's for these items, it does call out specifically like where it comes out of the budget and whether it's already been budgeted for, and whether it's general fund or from an enterprise fund. So I do appreciate that. I do know that not everybody has a chance to look through the agenda packet. And so I just would encourage people to, keep calling it out, making public comment. So thank you.
Great.
Right, I'll make a motion to adopt item F from the consent calendar.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion from Council
May I-
Vice Mayor. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make sure we invite public comment.
Yes, I apologize. Thank you for that reminder. Yeah,
Are you asking me if there's anybody on Zoom?
yeah.
No, there's not.
Okay, great. All right, so we have a motion from Vice Mayor Atkins Seltzer, and a second motion from Council Member Alex Stillman. If we have no other comments, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I say aye, so motion passes. Great, okay. Old business. We have a public hearing for closeout of Arcata's Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG grant number 22 CBD PL 20035, accomplishment, discomforts, and acceptance of the Valley West Neighborhood Center assessment. Can we have a staff report from Director of Community Development, David Loya, please?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. This is largely a procedural matter. As you recall from a few months ago, the council accepted the Valley West report. In trying to close out the grant, the CDBG program requested that we submit a resolution, so we're bringing it back for your adoption of the resolution. Be happy to answer any questions and take public comment.
Do we have any questions right now from council? Otherwise, I will open up a public hearing to see if we have any members of the public waiting to comment on this item.
I just want to say that the document, the assessment itself, I guess, is just, it's a good read. It's very comprehensive. There's a lot of great info in there, and it's really good to just see all the community engagement that was done, and it's really well prepared. So if folks listening out there saying, what are these guys talking about? Even though we've talked about it a bunch of times, I recommend reading the assessment. It's a lot of good info.
I wish they would have spent a little bit of time in how we might have been able to fund all those wonderful ideas, but I guess that's the next steps.
That's
And
next.
I think I read that we didn't fulfill our obligation when we had this on our agenda before, that we didn't have a resolution to close out this grant.
That's correct. We've already adopted this plan. We just need to adopt it by resolution so that we could submit that for closing out the grant.
So thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Joanne McGarry. Oops. Thank you for these hearing devices. It really helps. CDBG, again, I'm here and I'm starting to get it and starting to learn how this all works and everything. But community development block grants are things we get from the state to work on significant projects. And so acronyms sometimes help with, saying them, what they spell out to mean, but also the beauty of how this community has utilized and successfully obtained in the past and hopefully into the future a lot of these block grants for important projects like the Valley West assessment for community center. And so I just want to say in a public hearing that these are important issues that the state hopefully recognizes that we as the city of Arcata could really benefit by state monies to carry them out. And community development block grants, CDBG, yeah, close it out for this particular issue, and maybe we'll be successful in the future for closing out other successful grants from the state.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else from the public that would like to comment? Anyone on Zoom?
There's nobody on Zoom.
Okay, so unless there are any final comments from council, can we have a motion?
Well, I move I move to close out the Arcata's Community Developments Block Grant, grant number 22-CDBG-PL-20035, accomplishment and disencumber and acceptance of the Valley West Neighborhood Center assessment.
I'll second.
By adopting resolution number
Right.
256-72.
Oh, I should have gone in there and clicked on that. Okay, I just read it off the agenda. Sorry about that. Yes, it's a resolution number 256-72.
Okay, so we
I
do-
will still second. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Stillman, a second from Councilmember Matthews. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I say aye, so motion passes.
I say aye too. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
We're good with that motion?
You got it?
Yes, I heard the addition of the resolution. Thank you.
All right. So then we shall move on to new business. Appoint 2 members to the Planning Commission for one term expiring March 31st, 2027, and one term expiring March 31st, 2028. Earlier this evening, we interviewed 4 candidates for 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission. Do we have any questions or comments from the council?
I just wanted to thank everyone that came to interview. We had 4 wonderful candidates for 2 positions. So I just appreciate the enthusiasm in our residents in being a part of the process. So thank you.
And also the diversity of the backgrounds of everybody, and again, the willingness to serve. I wish we had seats for all of them.
Yes, it's always wonderful to see who's applying for our Planning Commission. And with that, I would like to move that we appoint Wendy Starr to one of the 2 positions on the Planning Commission. And I'm not going to be able to go in to see the terms. I'm doing really well on trying to do everything on my computer.
So
Now I have to get rid of something to get back to it. So
Alex-
I'm not too sure how to do it.
So one term expires March 31st, 2027, and one expires March 31st, 2028.
I would do March 31st, 2028.
Great. I will second that, and I just want to add, I was really impressed with Wendy's healthcare background, and that's something that our Planning Commission definitely doesn't have right now, or maybe even has ever really had. And I think her work in population healthcare sounded really interesting for being a part of the commission. So I would second that one.
And I
And we
totally agree. And I think it is going to be something that'll be beneficial for us to have on our commission. And thank you.
So do we have,
Are we going to go one at a time then?
oh, yeah. So do we have any members of the public wanting to comment on this item in person? Do we have anybody online?
There's no one online.
Okay. So do we want to do this in two separate motions? Okay. So we have a motion from Councilmember Stillman, and we have a second from Councilmember Schaefer. So if there's no other discussion before we vote, all members in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I say aye, so motion passes. That will bring us then to appoint a one-term member ending March 31st, 2027.
And I would like to make a motion to appoint Justin Baum Hawkins to a planning commission term expiring March 31st, 2027.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Matthews and a second from Councilmember Stillman. Any further discussion before we vote? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I say aye.
And so that'll be for the term March 31st, 2027.
Yeah, I'd like to ask to see if we have any public comment also from this second item. Would we be doing that, or is it the first one is good enough? Okay, perfect. All right. So then, all those in favor of aye, I say aye, motion passes.
Aye.
All right.
Aye
I just
again.
want to thank everyone again. It was a really tough decision. I wish that we had 4 openings for all 4 because all were superior qualified. And I hope that you come back and apply again. We have other opportunities. So again, thank you everyone for your time. And
Totally agree.
yeah. That will bring us then to public hearing to consider adopting resolution number 256-75, confirming the report of a 2025 lien letter recipients of delinquent garbage account fees. Can we have a staff report from Director of Environmental Services, Emily Benvey?
Sure. Good evening, Council. This is not the most fun staff report, but it is an annual process that the Council undergoes related to liens for delinquent garbage accounts. And so we bring this to Council pretty much June of every year. This relates to customers or account holders within city limits who have service with Recology and are delinquent in paying those garbage bills. And so the process generally is that account holders are notified, or owners, if the owners are different than the account holders, they're notified of their delinquent account on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, depending on if it's commercial or residential, that there's a delinquency. That notification continues to happen. And then accounts that don't get brought up to current or get paid from the last calendar year get moved forward into the lien process, as we call it at the shorthand. And so what that means is folks get a letter saying that the account is delinquent, there will be a public hearing, and if the accounts aren't brought current or paid up by X date, then the amount that is overdue gets placed on the tax bill effectively with the Humboldt County Assessor's Office, and the delinquency is collected that way. So that process starts generally every April of every year. Folks are given the opportunity to pay before being forwarded to City Council. At this point, there is about $28,000 total. Let's see, I have this on hand. Probably less than 50 accounts. So it's a fairly substantial amount of accounts that are still owing garbage bills. They'll still have the opportunity to pay up until August 1st. And then after that August 1st date, that amount would be forwarded on to the assessor for collection via the property tax process if they continue to remain outstanding. So again, it's a bit of a lengthy process, and certainly folks are given many opportunities to pay before that lien process, and this is sort of the final step in that process that authorizes the city to have the delinquent accounts placed on that property tax collector's bill for assessment.
Thank you, Emily. All right, do we have any questions or comments from council? Otherwise, I will now open.
Well, I want to share what it's like. You know, I had a tenant that wasn't paying their garbage bill. So every month I got a notice from the garbage company. My tenant is not paying their garbage bill. Every month I'd go talk to them about it and how they could pay a portion of it. And so I just want you to know if that's the way it happens. And so it can be quite annoying for the property owner, because eventually the property owner is going to be assessed to pay that property the garbage bill for a tenant that doesn't pay it. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Fortunately, it got paid, so I don't have to pay it. But I kept saying, I don't want to have this in delinquency. I don't want to have it at the council, coming forward to the council. So I got her finally to do it.
Okay, I will now open the public hearing. Do we have any members of the public waiting to comment on this item? If not, do we have anyone online virtually?
There's no one online.
Okay. Any final comments right now or a motion from council?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 256-75, confirming the report of the 2025 delinquent garbage account fees for lien.
I'll
I will
second. Go ahead.
I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Schaefer, a second from Vice Mayor Atkins Salzar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye, so motion passes. Thank you again, Emily. All right, so that brings us to item C, public hearing to consider establishing the fiscal year 2026-27 appropriations limit, or the GAN limit by adopting resolution number 256-73. Can we have a staff report from Assistant City Manager and our Finance Director, Tabitha Miller, please?
Yes, give me just a second and I'll pull this up.
Take your time.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, members of the public and staff. So this is a relatively sort of routine process that we go through every year. We are adopting the appropriations or expenditure limit, also known as the GAN limit by the person who originally sponsored it, for our fiscal year. And this is kind of the precursor to the budget, which is the next item on the agenda. So the origins of this date back to 1979, and it was part of the Prop 13 reforms. And it's something that happens not just in California, but versions of it happen in other states across the West. And essentially what it's required of the local government is that you establish your appropriations or expense or expenditure limitation on an annual basis prior to your budget. And basically it's just a very simple calculation I'll show you on the next page that takes your prior year appropriation limit, you adjust it for growth in or change in population and inflation, and then you are not allowed to spend over that amount, and we take certain revenues into account in calculating that. Why am I going backwards? So it looks complicated, but it's a relatively simple calculation. You'll see last year's limitation at the top, just over $22 million. Our price factor for this year is 4.95%. That's actually based on the per capita personal income tax, so it's a little higher than our inflation numbers these days. We get a population factor. We are the only city in Humboldt County that actually had positive growth in our population. Everyone else had negative, so we have just under 3% there. We take those two numbers combined, we multiply it by the 25-26 appropriation. We get what our new one is. The difference is the increase. It's for this year, it'll be about $23.8 million. We have, as long as I've been here, been well below the revenues that are subject to the appropriation limit have been well below the actual limit. So we've got about a $6.5 million buffer. So we're well within that GAN limit. I just thought I'd show you the changes in population. These are actually estimated every year by the California Department of Finance and put out. And as you can see, overall, Humboldt County had a negative 0.3% population decrease, and we happen to have added, or they're estimating we added about 568 bodies to our city. Any questions?
I guess I just wanted to comment that while everyone else had a decrease, we had an increase of 3%.
We did, which is even when you look at, because they actually put out all the population estimates statewide, And there aren't very many that, and it is an estimate, there aren't that many that are above 1 or 2%. So we certainly are in the minority.
Okay. I will now open up the public hearing. Do we have any members of the public waiting to comment on this item in person? If so, please make your way to the podium. Do we have anyone virtually online that would like to comment on this item?
There's no one online.
Okay, do we have any comments or a motion from council?
I'll make a resolution to make a motion to adopt resolution number 256-73, establishing the fiscal year 2026-27 appropriations limit.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Matthews, a second from Councilmember Stillman. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I say aye, so motion passes. Do I need to officially close
Thank
this
you
public
again.
hearing?
That's probably a good idea.
Okay, so we have officially closed this public hearing. All right, so that brings us to item D, public hearing to adopt resolution number 256-74, adopting the fiscal year 2026 to 2027 budget and approve the City of Arcata 2026 to 2027 legislative platform. Can we have a staff report from our Assistant City Manager and our Finance Director? Again, please, Tabitha Miller.
Yes, thank you. Just kind of a real brief recap. This is not the first time that we've been before the City Council with the budget this year. We've actually had 3 prior work study sessions, and so you have already spent hours on this topic. April 6th, 8th, and May 13th. And just a reminder that our municipal code actually requires that we adopt the city budget on or before July 1st of every year. There are 7 items that I wanted to make sure you are aware of that you're adopting as part of the budget and the budget document this evening. It's the appropriation or GAN limit, which you've already done just a few minutes ago. You're adopting revenue estimates and expenditure appropriations. You're adopting your goals, objectives, and priority projects for the fiscal year 26-27. You're updating or revising your budget and financial policies or stamping off on what's already there. You are approving the capital improvement program projects budgets, not the program itself, but the budgets that go along with that. You're authorizing staff positions and the estimated salaries and benefit costs for those. And then you're also approving the fiscal year 26-27 legislative platform. So these 6 numbers here are really the big picture kind of parameters of your budget, and they're just good things to know. So the total budget this year is $95 million. That's actually down from $110.7 million last year. So we saw about a 14% decrease there. Your capital budget is still large at $50.1 million, but that's a $10 million drop from what you adopted last year about this time. The total payroll budget, $21.7 million, and that was $21.3 million last year. City population, we just talked about, it's up to 19,570. You're approving 136.5 full-time employees, plus the 5 city council positions that are there. And then your general fund budget of $21.6 million this year, and that's a pretty significant reduction from last year. It was 24.7 when you adopted it in June of 2025. We have talked quite a bit about this, but I just kind of wanted to make sure the council remind you and anybody who's here or online watching the budget presentation tonight, we have sort of had our challenges this year. We are projecting sales tax, our transaction and use tax, both Measure G and H down, and our transient occupancy tax, our hotel tax. We have projected those down 5%, and that has a big impact on our general fund because those are the big tax revenues to support those general expenses. We've also, on the other side, we've had some pretty significant increases in our insurance costs, both our liability, property, and our health benefits. CalPERS costs continue to increase. Construction costs always seem to be on the rise at higher than inflation numbers. Utility and technology costs are rising. Technology, probably the biggest piece of that we're seeing is just replacement of just our infrastructure, and then security. Security has become just hugely important, and of course that comes with additional burdens from a cost factor. And then just general supplies and services continue to increase. We have already gotten action and direction from council, and we appreciate that the ongoing conversations we've had. We adopted a hiring freeze on June 3rd. We also adopted a retirement incentive plan on June 3rd, and we're going to use those to try to cut some of our labor and benefits cost. You provided some direction to fund the Reconnecting Arcata project at $150,000 less than budgeted for this year to try to control those costs. You also provided direction to increase the general fund reserve policy to 50% of operating expenses. It was at 35%, and I have a slide on that, a couple in the future. And then you had agreed with the 5% decreases in our projections for our tax revenues. So our $95 million, this gives you a big picture review of how those funds are spent, and you will see that the largest portion is our utilities, and that's primarily our water and wastewater, but it does also include solid waste, the small portion of the expenses that are on us, and our stormwater. And a big chunk of that, of course, is the capital program that continues to be robust and is part of that $50.1 million we discussed from our capital program. Public works projects and services are second, and that really is our streets and transportation. And we've got a couple big projects, including our annual paving and starting construction on the Sunset and 101 project this year. And then third is public safety, is kind of the third high amount of dollars. And just kind of wanting to remind everybody that, you know, we are trying to invest in the people, the infrastructure, and the future of our community, and it really is important. So where does the $95 million come from? So you can see on the pie chart in dark green there, intergovernmental revenues is about $27 million. Most of that is grant funding that is related to our capital projects or some of our other community development special programs. About 3.5, the other part of that 27 million, is ongoing revenue. It's our gas taxes, which are a regular revenue source, and we get a motor vehicle in lieu of tax that's about $2.4 million. Charges for services account for just about 19% of our total revenue. And again, the majority of that, the vast majority, is our utilities. Taxes is 16% of our total revenue citywide. And then a couple things that I just wanted to make sure we point out, because they are something to be aware of. We are looking at probably issuing debt sometime this year, and it's the first time you will have issued debt since 2015, and even then you were just refunding issues that were out there. You have a very small amount of debt. It's we've got $2.8 million with the redevelopment agency, and those funds actually still come from the property tax. It doesn't come directly from the city coffers. And then you have about $1.7 million in improvements to this building and some of the water system that were refunded back in 2015, and I believe those are paid off in 2029. So adding $15 million is well within the city's abilities to pay off. It's been built into the rates, but it is a big change for the city, and it will add debt that hasn't been there. And then we are projecting use of fund balance. That's really two primary places. We'll talk about it a little bit more in a slide or two when we talked about it in our previous meetings, but about 1.2 million of that will come from general fund, some of the money that's been set aside over the years, and the other 6.2 comes from your reserves in your wastewater fund. So, which still remains pretty solid, financially solid and viable. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I just kind of wanted to remind you on our general fund that we really, it took the hardest hit because it relies on those tax revenues. It has the most labor, so our health insurance increases certainly had the biggest impact in our general fund. And then we continue to sort of have to subsidize other funds that just aren't able to make enough or bring in enough revenue to cover the costs. And those are critical services, you know, our stormwater fund, streets and gas tax fund, and our traffic safety fund. So those funds you're basically helping make those whole at the end of the year. And then we are using some preserves. Again, that's that one part of the $1.2 million fund balance to make up the difference. Just under $500,000 is the match for the Annie and Mary Trail. And again, that allowed us to leverage $7 million in grant funds. So it's well worth it. It's an extraordinarily important project for the community and very much well received. We've got $100,000 for facility assessment. We've got another $100,000 coming from water and wastewater. And This is a project that we felt was really important just because it's that forward planning. It allows us to continue to look at our infrastructure and continue to plan for how to take care of those assets. And then the Reconnecting Arcata project plan. And again, we went from about $5.6 million when we first looked at it to the $1.2 million that we're subsidizing. This is a big picture review of the general fund. And probably the biggest reason I wanted to put this up wasn't so much to go through all the detailed numbers. Here's our proposed budget this year at 21.6. You can see that last year you approved $24.7 million. Of course, the biggest decrease in that is in public works, and that's capital projects. But you can also see that we really did go through and make cuts at departments, and it is reflected in that 13% overall decrease in the budget that we did get. We did go in and look at every line item and make adjustments to every single department, and they were generally reductions. You've seen this slide before too, but just wanted to remind you and the public that we have done, or the city has done, and even before my time, a really good job of being conservative and putting money away in the general fund, and those really are there for those big projects, emergencies. You have that padding that is really nice. And when you look around at some of the other entities in our area and even throughout California, your general fund reserves are pretty good. At 277 days, you have a pretty good amount of fallback. It obviously would go quickly, but it is something to be very proud of as a council. So we are proposing, and it is part of the budget tonight, to change your emergency reserve from 35% of operating expenses, which is currently about $7 million, to 50%. So we'll be adding 15%. The nice thing is that you have excess unreserved fund balance that we can move there. So this doesn't cut into anything or hurt anything. What it does mean is that you'll be putting about $10 million away for the emergency reserves. And so those set aside for long-term extraordinary needs. After just kind of looking at this year, we currently have just over $6.1 million. We are looking at $450,000 probably net revenue this current year, 25-26. I will tell you that number was higher when I first showed you this chart a month ago or so. What's changed is our sales tax, and we'll touch base on that in a slide or two. And then that unreserved fund balance that we are intending to use to make up some of the shortfall in the general fund this next year. And it's the offsetting the 5% decrease in sales tax and TOT, the Annie and Mary matching funds, and then the facilities assessment, which is just under 1.2 million. It still leaves 5.4 million in unreserved fund balance, and so those are funds that would be available for other non-emergency expenses going forward. So sales tax, like I said, 5% doesn't seem like a lot, but it is such an important revenue source. It is, and it also is sort of a reflection of just the economy locally and the economy nationwide. And so it's something that I think we want to pay attention to. On the right-hand side, I wanted to give you just a little bit of history. This happens to be the city's TUT, or Measure G tax. I didn't include Measure H here because we don't have the history, because it just was implemented about a year ago. The other thing, let me see if I can show my mouse. The other thing is it's a little hard to read, but I've got a scale that's not from 0 to 3.15 million. It's from 2.55 to 3.15. And I did that on purpose, and you'll see in the next slide, so that you could see sort of the real change that's happened over the last 5 years. You can see that we had a nice continuing increase in this tax source to about fiscal year 24-25, topped out at just about $3 million. This year we have revised our estimate downward. I did that after the third quarter, which is January through March of this year, came in. We had a pretty significant dip in our Measure G. It was down 13.7%, which is the biggest drop in a quarter I've seen. And looking at it, what I can tell you is that it's probably a reflection of some of the work that's being completed at Cal Poly, because we do get some of the TUT tracks on those construction projects and building materials and furniture and all the other things that they bring in to build those. It also probably has a little bit of a reflection on the fire on January 1st. And then just really trying to figure out if the trends are more than that. We won't know until August, late August of this year, what our fourth quarter, which is April through June, will look like. So the numbers here for 2026 are estimated and for 2027. But we'll probably, I'm sure we'll be updating you when we get those numbers to keep track of it. It's also, sometimes a reflection, it's a reflection of our local businesses too, and we really want to be in touch with what is happening there. Because that's not just, the city's not, dependent on those dollars, but so is the rest of the community. So it's important. The graph on the right-hand side is really by quarter, and it's really just to kind of show you the fluctuation. What you'll see is that first quarter and fourth quarter, so July through September and April through June, certainly have traditionally been the best months. And you can see even in the beginning of this year, fiscal year 2026, we had the best first quarter that we've had in a number of years, probably the best ever, and then we started seeing that decrease in quarter 2 and 3. And so we're probably not going to make up the difference. Fiscal year 2025, interestingly enough, the best year ever with just that $3 million. And you can see that our quarters were almost equal. And so it's really about getting year-round business in our city. So the Bradley Burns sales tax is 1%, so it's a bigger percentage. This is the piece that we share with the state. One of the differences here is that it is typically it's taxed where the transaction happens. So a good example of where we lose out is you buy a car, you drive to Eureka, you buy a car, they get the Bradley Burns, we get just our share of the TUT. Same thing with many of the building materials and construction projects. The Bradley Burns doesn't necessarily follow where it's used, it's where the transaction happens. And a lot of times those are purchased elsewhere. You'll look at the numbers and you'll notice that even though the TUT is 0.75%, you would expect that our Measure G would be 75% of the tax base. It's more like 90%. And that's really because of that extra use tax that we get. You can also notice that it's been a bit more stable, especially if you look at the changes that have happened over the last 5 years. But we have projected that dip. It might be a little conservative in this particular tax source, which is a little bit more stable, but it gives us a buffer, and you can certainly make adjustments in these estimates when it comes to mid-year. So we have time to come back. And you can see, again, they have the similar first and fourth quarter where the most of the money comes in. I did want to, again, I pointed out that your legislative platform is part of what you're adopting. We did add one item, and it has to do with supporting reform for California tort liability system and litigation and controlling escalating liability and insurance costs for public entities. Obviously, this is very important to us because it is part of our double-digit and increases in insurance, and so we want to have the ability to join our insurance companies and other joint power authorities and entities that are dealing with the same issue to try to limit damages and costs to what is appropriate and effective, but not overly inflated, and certainly trying to limit our cost in that process. And with that, I would answer any questions.
All right.
All right, go
Mind
ahead.
if I go? Okay, I'm sorry, I have notes everywhere. But again, first of all, I know we've sat through 3 budget meetings. I know this has been a really lengthy process. I want to again thank you for your pragmatism and conservative approach to this budget. I have in the last week sat through budgets in Fortuna, Eureka, and the county. So I just really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking such the approach that you take when doing this budget. The one thing that I did talk to you about earlier, and city manager as well, that perhaps you can speak to, because I know that this was definitely important to us and to Arcata, was the $25,000 that we had agreed to set aside for the climate action position. I know that, it is especially after some of the conversations we've been having through, the economic development presentation, and just because of who we are, it's really important that Arcata is the leader and making sure that we have funds set aside for this position. So I do have a couple other questions, but I'd like for you guys to kind of address where that money is. And
So we did originally have $25,000 in our budget, and our two-talk committee had recommended that. I know that it was an important set aside for many years for the city council, and the thought was that we would set that aside for matching funds as part of a sort of county jurisdiction support for a position for the climate action plan and for a climate manager. When we started hearing from the other jurisdictions and from RCEA that we weren't ready and that we weren't in a position to actually hire that position this year, we did take those funds out because we are so tight at this time. If that becomes a priority, or if it becomes something that becomes a reality in this budget year, I am sure that we can find funds within our budget to help that. And on the alternative, if the council felt really strongly about it, we could add it as an additional line item tonight. What I would recommend is that we just see how things go, and when that becomes viable, then we can address it. And there's nothing that says we can't bring something back to you at any point in the new year to fund those needs.
Yeah, and just one additional comment too. We met with the executive director of RCEA, Beth Burks, and what she thought is a lot in the first year, there'd be a lot of development of the program, and that a lot of work would be done by the director. They anticipated the director would probably be doing about maybe 40% regional climate action plan, the director of engagement and regional climate planning. And so she was unsure of how soon we would need those funds for that. Our regional climate action plan administrator, but it's been clear to us that this is a priority for the council. And so I'd second Tabitha's recommendation of bring it back as either amend it and include it in the budget. We certainly have enough unprogrammed reserves that we could use, or we could bring it back when we have more clarity about what the actual needs of RCEA are as a budget amendment in the future.
Yeah, and that's fine if that's what RCEA told you, but I just want to be able to, I guess, use our willingness to fund this position as leverage for the other jurisdictions that might be kind of dragging their feet, because I don't want them to say, well, Arcata's not doing it, so we're not going to do it either. I just want other jurisdictions know that should this position be ready, we are 100% ready to fund it.
Understood. So those two options make sense, I guess. We would just look for direction from the council on what the preference is.
I mean, I hope I'm here next year, but I feel like it's really important. And I personally would like to see that as an additional line item tonight so that it is secured. And as pointed out by Meredith, is that we want to make sure that we set the example for other jurisdictions so that this is for sure funded. I mean, I'm not sure what my fellow council members feel about that. I know that we have this budget and it is, what do you, other thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I think we should add it as a line item, and if we don't spend it, great. We have $25,000 that can, go into the general fund or be used for other things. I would agree, and I know the conversations that have taken place, and that the reality that it probably won't happen in this fiscal year is realistic. But I think the piece of leadership having to do with it is what's important. So. If we want to talk about that more,
so it'll
we
be
can.
like a placeholder. Is that what you're thinking? A placeholder?
That's what I was hearing.
Okay, a placeholder. Thank you.
Is that going to hold up the adoption of the budget?
No, what I would suggest is that you'll when you if you make your motion, I'm assuming you will, you'll make it with the amendment of setting aside $25,000 for the climate action plan manager position.
And do you need that to be specified from the general fund?
It can be, yes.
I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to weigh in.
I appreciate that. Thank you. No, I do. Just because there have, been rumors circulating that we might not be on board, this puts that to bed and lets people know we are on board. But to clarify, it's, if we don't, this is coming out of our reserves. So if we don't use it, it goes back into the reserves, not the general fund. Thank you.
Or perhaps it's never pulled out unless it's used.
Okay.
All right, so.
I
uh,
do.
No final comments, then is there a motion from council?
Oh, no, I have
No,
more.
we're not going to do that.
I have more.
Okay,
Um,
all right, more questions then, and public comment, of course.
like less of a question and more of just a general comment. I think especially after we had that presentation of the economic development plan last week, which was wonderful and I really enjoyed it. And also seeing, that our sales tax are declining. I just think that it is really important for us to, when things come before us, to really kind of strategize about if the things that we're funding are going to give us like a return on investment and make Arcata a place that people want to visit and shop at and spend money in. And I just think that that we should kind of like in the future, we're making these decisions, weigh things against that economic development plan and how to increase our sales tax. And again, like I wasn't there for that discussion, but I did see when the chamber presented whenever the last time they were here, that Visit Arcata website that I think, especially since we had talked before about, branding Arcata as like a jumping off point to go take day trips and then coming back and spend here. I think that, whether the city does the website or the chamber does the website, our website absolutely leaves something to be desired, and someone should really invest some time and money, because especially with the way people are planning trips nowadays, and a lot of it is like AI, like having something that is easily accessible and so thorough is going to be so important, like as a step to get people to come and spend money here.
Yeah, and I think to that point, what came up was don't let the plan, sit on the shelf. And so thinking about, especially when we're looking at the budget, how we're gonna, you use that plan to push some of these things forward to help us on the other side of the budget that's not looking as pretty. So I don't know if other people want to talk about that. I have another question that I really want to ask, but you want to?
Well, I was just going to think about mid-year budget review and if we can bring that back at that time.
We can bring it back at that time. I do want to make sure that everybody does also know that we do have $150,000 set aside for economic development projects. We haven't obviously identified those yet, and there's probably some additional funds in our it's our redevelopment money that can be used for public projects that can support some of these efforts. So it's a matter of whether we bring it back at mid-year or if we do something before, because we're ready to bring back specific projects to city council to look at and weigh whether or not we fund those and move those forward. So
yeah, I think
we can do
midterm
it probably
is-
earlier.
Yeah, I think midterm is probably too late, especially if money set aside. And I know that that was a thing that we already voted on. So I don't know, like, how do you bring that back? Is somebody that voted no? bring it back?
The motion was to bring it back after we had our meeting about the economic development strategic plan to see where that would fit in with the plan. I think that was, the general motion and direction. So I think now that we've had that, I think that, seeing that again and maybe a way that's a little more, clearer, like, just a contract for services, not this kind of vague idea of an RFP. That I think that is the piece that confused me about that item that night. And so that we were just going to go out for proposals anyway, but it kind of seems targeted that, we have an organization that wants to provide us services and this is the service. So just that.
Can I respond, Councilmember Schaefer? Just one of the things, so we're at a probably 80% completion level of that economic strategy. And so we expect to finish that in July, August. And so just to get clarity on kind of what your opinion was to come back after we have that list of projects and then bring it back within the next couple months after that plan's complete or thereabouts.
Yeah, I guess that very good preview we got already kind of showed that project is on the list. So
Yeah, and a couple months I think is better than midterms.
So I just wanted to bring up one of the things that saw that our the economic development person for the county was saying. It's really important when we post on social media or anywhere that we always are positive about our county and about our city, because now with AI, etc., when you're searching for a place, it picks up all the comments, and so it can come up with comments. If I said something was not good or was good, it will pick that up. And so she encouraged us all to think very positively about what we say And that will definitely affect our tourists.
Yeah, and I will say that, you know, Visit Eureka has incredible social media, and I think that really like makes a difference. And so just I mean, we do great with like press releases and like recycle your things or whatever, but I do think that there is an opportunity for us to really sell Arcata through like a Visit Arcata brand. So I'm really looking forward to the completion of that economic development plan. Again, like I want everything to be tight and aligned and everything like branded correctly, but it's something, it's definitely an opportunity.
So I think Eureka has an overall vision. They just completed a welcome sign coming from as you drive north and around Hendrick, I think that's the correct area. So maybe some of you have already seen that. But I think we should look at an overall picture. And anyway, that's where I'm coming from. And I also heard some ideas about how to come up with that funding. And I don't know if you've heard about that.
I feel like we're getting into the minutia of it and the nitty gritty. I also would like to see if Vice Mayor Atkins-Selzer would like to say something.
I didn't have one on this topic. I think it's a great topic for when it comes before us as a agenda item specific to that. But I just had a simple clarification that I think would be useful to the public. When we're talking about all the different taxes, we have our sales tax and the TUT and the TOT. And I think the TOTs, being from hotels is pretty obvious, but there can often be confusion between what's sales tax and what's a transition and use tax. And would you be able to offer just some clarification on that?
So first of all, we generally refer to both the sales tax from the state, the Bradley Burns, and the transactions and use tax as sales tax. And mostly because when you go to the store and you get charged here in Arcata 10.25%, the TUT, the transactions and use tax, is an added layer to the state 7.25%. And so they have different names and they're treated a little different in where they're collected and how they're collected, but we usually refer to that 10.25 as the sales tax, keeping in mind that the city, only gets 2.5% of that total. And the rest goes to the state and the county and other entities. But I think that gives the difference between the Bradley Burns sales tax and the TUT, or transactions and use tax, is really how it comes to be, because the voters locally put it into place, the TUT, and then exactly how it's taxed. But it's always kind of lumped into this sales tax pot because of the way it's collected. And then, as you said, the transient occupancy tax, the TOT, I often will refer to also as a hotel tax. Then it kind of relates it directly back to who's paying the tax on it.
Thanks. So I think that that's really important because we don't get the full amount of the sale of the 7.25 sales tax. But when we're explaining like the measure G or H, those additional couple of percentage points on there, that fully goes to Arcata.
Correct.
And I think that's just, and I just wanted to bring that up because, it is important to know for when people are voting for things like that, that's something that really just specifically goes to us. Thank you.
Thank you for asking for that clarification. I appreciate it. I also want to make sure that we hear from the public. So yes, absolutely.
Great. I wanted to ask about the juvenile diversion officer position and if it is being funded in this budget, or if we used opioid funds to do it, or if we're using the overhire position. And it's kind of just hard to tell because all the personnel expenses are lumped together, or at least just so it seemed to me. I couldn't find it.
So the position is still in your authorized list of positions that you are approving in this budget, and it is a line item, and there is one, just to be clear. We are in the process of trying to get the job description updated so that we can send it off to the opioid folks, and make sure that they're good with using those funds to fund that position, either in total or in part, depending on how much money is available to us. But that position is still out there, and is part of it. It has not been frozen, although it is kind of on hold until we take care of the funding, because we really are trying hard to get some additional funds from opioids to offset the general fund cost.
Thank you for that update. I'm just curious, if it isn't funded through the opioid, will we have a space holder for that? How will that work? Yes, that's what you just said? Okay, thank you. All right, so then unless there's more questions from council, I would like to open up for public comment on this item, please.
You know, the need to tighten our belts, and, you know, we're gonna have to make some cuts and take some delays on certain things is important. I really appreciate the need to be in the vanguard on this climate action manager funding. So I appreciate having that put on as a budget line item. A lot of what the climate action plan will hopefully create is also potentially a reduction in some of the revenue that might come from taxes like gas taxes or other things, because if people are being conservative in their energy use and or individual fossil fueled vehicle use, I don't know if there must be a tax, I guess, on electric vehicles too when they go charge them up, but it's worth the trade-off to me. So I just want to say that some things that we might be proposing in climate action will not be the same kind of revenue generators that we're used to. And I think that's okay. And, you know, we'll find other ways. And we can really sell ourselves as a forward-thinking climate action community. And that will get people to come and see how we do it so they can take it back to where they're living and emulate us in our forward way of living on the planet. So yeah, I appreciate adding that as a line item.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone else in the public that would like to comment? If not, do we have anyone virtually?
There's no hands on Zoom.
Okay. So that would leave us, unless there's any final comments, then shall we move forward with the addendum?
All right.
Okay.
I guess I would like to then make a motion to adopt resolution number 256-74, adopting the fiscal year 26-27 budget, and approve the City of Arcata's 26-27 legislative platform, and also approve adding in a line item for $25,000 for a climate manager
From the general fund.
from the general fund.
And do we have a second?
I will second.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Matthews, a second from Councilmember Schaefer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I
Thank
say
you,
aye, so
Tabitha.
motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for.
I know that you spent like many, many, many extra hours in this office worrying about the budget, and I appreciate your diligence so much.
So I would like to give her a compliment. I really enjoyed looking at all the photographs you chose for the different topics when you went through the budget online. And I thought you did a really great job, and I really enjoyed looking at all the photographs and appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. That's, you know, I don't get to be creative very often.
Well, it was a good job.
All right, thank you again. All right, so that brings us to item E, adopt CEQA common sense exemption for ordinance number 1587 and introduce ordinance number 1587, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata, amending Title II of the Arcata Municipal Code regarding design approval authority. Can we have a staff report from City Engineer Netra Kadri?
Good evening, Mayor, Council member, member of the public, and staff. This is a very straightforward staff report and mainly administrative. And one of the requirements that we got when we got our new insurance through CIRA, California Intergovernmental Risk Authority, when we got new insurance, they went through our Muni code and they made some recommendation what all changes we should be making. So this is one of the recommendations related to design immunity. So currently, there is a government code section 830.6 that provides design immunity protection to public entities and public employees for injuries caused by plans and designs done via public improvements, as long as that is approved by the council or the body. And that is one of the reasons every time there is a project, we come here, bring it. One of the recommendation is to approve the project. So we are just trying to reinforce our mini code by adding this section in our mini code rather than just relying on the government code. So with that, I would just request you to take some public comments and approve this, and we can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So do we have any questions or comments from council? Okay, then how about the public? Do we have any members of the public who would be waiting to comment on this item? Anyone online?
Mayor White, can I just clarify if
Absolutely.
the public hearing's open? I believe this is a public hearing.
Yeah, okay. So I will now officially open the public hearing. And do we have any members of the public who are waiting to comment on this item?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, and there's nobody in public, so then do we have any final comments or a motion from council? Yeah.
I'll introduce ordinance number, excuse me, number 1587, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata amending Title II of the Arcata Municipal Code regarding design approval authority for public improvement projects, waive reading of the text, and consent to read by title only.
Do we also need to find that it is
Yes.
exempt from CEQA?
Yes, I was going to suggest that as part of the motion, if we can have that finding made, please.
Sure, and to find that the adoption of the ordinance number 1587 is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section 15061B3 of the CEQA guidelines for the reasons stated in ordinance number 1587.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Vice Mayor Atkinsálzar, a second from Councilmember Stillman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I say aye, motion passes, and now I will officially close this public hearing. Are we good on that? Yeah, okay, great. So F, introduce ordinance number 1588, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata amending Chapter 2 Sewers and Chapter 3 Water of the Title 7 Public Works of the Arcata Municipal Code to align collection enforcement for solid waste, wastewater, and water services, and correcting Section 5430 rates and changes of Chapter 3 Solid Waste Management and Title 5 Sanitation and Health. May we have a report from our Assistant City Manager and Finance Director, Tabitha Miller, please.
Thank you. So, so what the ordinance that we are asking you to that we are introducing this evening is to add some potential collection and enforcement efforts to our water and wastewater systems. And really what we're trying to do is provide our staff all of the options that they have in order to collect on unpaid bills and receive those funds and sort of make it fair across the entire city. So what you are approving tonight will be the ability for us to place a lien on the respective property for water and wastewater. We can also, if there's unpaid charges, we can place those on the Humboldt County tax rolls or the property bill through the direct charges, just like the solid waste item that you had earlier. We can if we take court action, and if judgment is in favor of the city, it allows for cost and attorney's fees. And then finally, we can also discontinue utility services charged on the unified bill. So if there's multiple utilities on the same bill and even just one is unpaid, it gives us a little bit more ability to collect there. So one of the things when we brought this ordinance up is that the legal staff that wrote the ordinance wanted to take the opportunity to correct an error. And it really is just very simple that section 5425 does not exist. And so they thought the way to do it was to eliminate this that sentence from the ordinance. But when the environmental services staff looked at the solid waste section and took a look at this, they felt like they have many more changes that need to happen when the Recology franchise agreement moves forward and the SB 1383 requirements. And so they would prefer that we not do anything with that ordinance at this time, but instead remove that from the ordinance this evening and every reference to it. And they'll bring those back to you as part of a much larger change to that particular section of the code. So what we're asking for here is the revised recommended action, and I realize I put it up here because it's a little bit wordy and a little bit more complex, but really what we're asking you to do is strike a few things, strike the reference in the title. We have a whereas that talks about it, and then strike the actual removing of that sentence, and then make a motion to adopt the ordinance number, or excuse me, introduce the ordinance number 1588 as amended with the second motion. So we have two separate motions: revise the ordinance, and then introduce the amended ordinance. And I apologize about all the words.
So does everybody, do you need any more clarity, or any questions? Okay, so then I will now open up the public hearing. Do we have any members of the public waiting to comment on this item? Anybody virtually?
There's no one with a hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, so unless there's any final comments, then do we have a motion from council?
Can I make it all as one, or do we have to do it?
Two.
Two. Okay, so the first one is the motion to approve the amendments as presented by staff to the proposed ordinance number 1588 to strike the 10th whereas from the recitals section of ordinance, to strike the entirety of the text section 5 from the ordinance replaced with reserved, and 3, strike and correcting section 5430 rates and charges of chapter 3 solid waste management of the title 5 sanitation and health from the title of the ordinance.
I will second that first motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Matthews and a second from Councilmember Schaefer. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I say aye, so motion passes. Now we will go to the second one.
So I will make the motion for the second one. Motion to introduce ordinance number 1588, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata amending Chapter 2 Sewers and Chapter 3 Water of Title 7 Public Works of this Arcata Municipal Code to align collection and enforcement of solid waste, wastewater, and water services as amended, and waive reading of the title and consent to read by title only.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion from Councilmember Stillman and a second from Vice Mayor Atkins Salzer. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I say aye, so motion passes. All right, so consider adopting resolution number 256-63, placing renewal of Measure G, 3/4 of a cent transactions and use tax measure on the November 3rd, 2026 ballot. Can we have a staff report from Assistant City Manager and our Finance Director, once again, Tabitha Miller?
Good evening again. So this is an abbreviated version of the presentation we did as a staff report about 2 meetings ago or a month ago, as far as the information. And we are asking you to take action this evening to place this on the ballot. Just a reminder that Measure G was approved by the Arcata voters nearly 20 years ago on November 4th of 2008. It was approved by a percentage of 63.52% for and 36.48% against. This is the language, and you can see probably one of the big things is in the highlighted time there that it does have a sunset. It will sunset and expire on March 31st of 2029, 20 years after it started collections. And it is for, it was increasing police staffing to improve public safety, and then it had to do with filling potholes, maintaining and repairing city streets, sidewalks, and bicycle paths, and improving traffic and circulation. It also was the impetus to establish the TUTOC, or the Transaction and Use Oversight Committee, and they've been around for nearly 20 years also. So we have in the proposed ballot renewal the language is a little bit different. One is that we are really stressing the fact that this is a continued to continue existing general government funding. We are still keeping it to maintaining essential services, including public safety staff. We've dropped the police from there to be a little bit broader. And then, the main purpose, filling potholes, maintaining and repairing city streets, sidewalks, multi-use trails, and bicycle paths, and expanding multimodal circulation is very similar to the previous. And again, the renewing and extending the voter-approved 3/4 sales tax until ended by voters. And so what that does is that it eliminates that sunset and it puts the onus back on the voters to actually, if they want to revoke the tax at some future time. Just a review of the requirements for actually passing the TUT measure. It would be revenues that are unrestricted, so it's considered a general tax. And REL, we have and will continue to dedicate those to public safety and our streets and transportation programs. It is not a requirement that the city do so. It is a general tax. The city council tonight must approve it by 2/3, which means 4 out of 5 must approve placing this on the ballot. But it only requires a majority +1 of voter approval to be initiated. And the other thing that happens is that we have to we can only bring tax measures in the elections that we elect our city council. And so we are limited. We have two dates available to us before this tax expires in March of 2029, the November 3rd of this year, and then 2 years from now on November 7th. So this is our first of 2 opportunities. I did want to touch a little bit on the maintenance of effort. We talked about this in our previous presentation, and we've talked about it as a possibility to add additional funding to the city. And this is the additional funding that's been made available by the state through SB1. It's $200 million, and it's set aside for jurisdictions that have established dedicated funding sources, typically a special tax that is approved by 2/3. We're not asking for that tonight. We were hoping that we would be able to have a advisory question that would be included on this to get us there, where we would ask the voters if they would dedicate 2/3 of that money to specifically to transportation and streets. When we checked with the Caltrans representatives, they made it clear to us that that wasn't, even though we were looking at other examples of cities that had done it, it wasn't something that was going to be available to us. So I just kind of wanted to make sure that that's not something that we are looking at or pursuing at this point in time. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information. I didn't want to go into the same detail we did just a few weeks ago.
Okay, thank you. Shall we start on the left this time?
Well, I do support this because I supported it before and worked on it it was 18 years ago. And I had been told at that time that something like this would really pass with flying colors, and we did very well with it. And it was a low-key campaign, and we succeeded. And so I do definitely support it, and I would also like to be part of a subcommittee to work on the future of this event, this measure.
Yes, I'm in support of it, and also would just like to clarify, because I was interested in that self-help funding, but I believe the reason that even though we do have the appropriate split with how we collect it in a ballot measure, it just has to be for the roads money, correct?
That is what we have learned, yes.
Great. And yes, and Councilmember Stillman asked if I would help on that subcommittee, and I am happy to do that.
Yeah, so I do want to, I do believe that the next item, it will ask for the establishment of the committee. And so I think we can wait till Ria's items. So our items are kind of intertwined and they overlap a little bit. And this is one of the areas they do.
Coming soon. All right,
Coming
so
soon, yes.
Do we have any other questions right at this point? Otherwise, I will ask members of the public if they are interested in commenting on this item.
I think I voted yes on this tax, understanding why the city needed it, wanted it, and was willing to give it this sunset period of time, and now coming back and asking to continue it with the voters having to come forward with saying we don't want this tax anymore. So I just want that to be clear that if we go ahead with putting this on the ballot and then it passes, it'll be once again up to the voters to rescind it if that's what they want to do. So that's okay. And taxes are important, and long time ago when Sophia Pereira was running for city council, I approached her about a voluntary peace tax that would be like a sales tax that people could contribute to for peaceful types of community efforts, you know, not so much potholes and police, but anyway, I see the need to extend this and see what the voters have to say. You know, it's just really tight for everybody. So I'm telling all my friends when I go to frequent the local restaurants that it's going to be hard for me to tip you as much as I really want to all the time, you know, because all these types of things just add up to the pocketbook of the citizenry. So, you know, go put it on the ballot and see how it does. And thanks again for your good explanations of things.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone online?
There are no hands raised online for comment. At this point, may I ask a quick question of the city attorney?
Yes, absolutely.
Just because this is a fourth-fifths requirement vote, I wanted to be sure, is there a roll call vote required for it?
It's not required, but it might be advisable to make sure that we're clear on the vote. So that's a good suggestion.
Okay, so then we would make a motion and then a second, and then we would have a roll call instead of, okay. So do we have a motion from council?
Well, I'm going to move, I'll make it. I'm hope it's the right place because I can't open it any further. Adopt resolution number 256-63, placing renewal of Measure G 3/4 cent transaction and use tax measure on the November 3rd, 2026 ballot.
And do we have a second?
A quick point of
Does it need
submit
more?
Ordinance number.
It needs more?
Yes,
Yeah, there's a lot more.
Councilmember, if you don't mind just adding that the
Okay.
request that the city attorney prepare the impartial analysis.
Generally, and submitting ordinance number 1589 to qualify, let me see, ooh, this is bad, to qualify, qualified voters at the November 3rd, 2026 general municipal election, and request the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis of the measure. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Stillman and a second from Councilmember Schaefer. All those in favor? Oh, we're
Yeah,
going
roll
to
call
do
vote.
a roll call. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Yes.
Councilmember Stillman,
Yes.
Mayor White,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar.
Yes.
That's 5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. All right, now we
Thank
will
you.
go to the part B, or item H, adopt resolution 256-66, calling for a general municipal election to be held on, okay, on November 3rd, 2026, and detailing associated policies and actions, and consider appointing a subcommittee to draft a primary argument in favor of the sales tax measure. Can we have a staff report from City Clerk Rhea Varley, please?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. As you are likely aware, in even-numbered years, the City of Arcata holds a general municipal election. In this upcoming 2026 election, voters will select 2 members of the City Council and decide on one ballot measure for the city's transactions and use tax. Adoption of the resolution before you tonight, resolution number 256-66, will call the election, designate what will be on the ballot, set forth policies for the election, request that the County Board of Supervisors consolidate the election with the statewide general election, and request that the Humboldt County Office of Elections conduct the election on behalf of the city. At this point, there is one minor typo that I would like to bring to your attention. And I'm just going to share my screen real quick here on Zoom. And I'm just waiting for it to show up there on the screen. So the minor typo I'd like to know is right here in section 4. We originally planned to bring this item to you on June 3rd, along with the ballot measure that you directed staff to place on the ballot tonight. So the typo is just correcting June 3rd, 2026 to be June 17th, 2026. And I will ask that you include that small correction in your motion at the end of my staff report. And then separately, as we started discussing earlier, for appointing a subcommittee, this evening under new business, item G, the council placed the transactions and use tax measure on the November 3rd ballot. The council may submit arguments in favor of the transactions and use tax measure. To accomplish this, the council can appoint 2 council members to a subcommittee to draft a primary argument to bring to the council's August 4th, 2026 regular meeting for approval. And if necessary, the subcommittee could draft a rebuttal argument, which would be due on August 26, 2026. And I apologize, I wanted to include, if we bring the primary argument in favor of the measure, the deadline that we would be aiming to meet is April 14th, 2026. So with that, I would recommend that you...
August 14th, 2026?
So the deadline for the primary argument will be, yes, August 14th. 14th, for us to meet that deadline, if the council appoints a subcommittee for all 5 council members to sign the argument, then we would bring it to the August 4th regular city council meeting to be approved so that the 5 council members would sign the argument. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I would recommend that you approve an amendment to resolution number 256-66 to correct the date in section 4 to be June 17th, 2026, and adopt resolution number 256-66 calling a general municipal election to be held November 3rd, 2026 in the city of Arcata as amended. And I'm just going to share that language on the screen real quick so it's easy to reference once you determine whether or not you'd like to make a motion.
Okay, do we want to hear from the public or do we want to do our motion first? It's really up to y'all. Okay, let's open up for the members of the public who might be waiting to comment on this item. If you are, please step up to the podium now.
Just real quick, my name's Joanna McGarry, and I think it's good that if you're voting for putting this on the ballot and you want to see it happen, that you all sign for it, because I do look at those arguments when I'm voting, and so it would be good to see your names on it if that's what you want to support, so the voters know.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have anyone on Zoom that would like to comment on this item?
I do not see any hands raised on Zoom, and just so that everybody's aware, I'll bring up that slide with the proposed amendment real quick here.
All right, thank you to our city clerk, Ray Varley. It is coming up here in a minute, right? Do we have any final comments while we're waiting for this to come up from the council?
No, but I'm so ready to make this motion when Rhea pulls it up.
It's
I'm
coming.
on it. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve the amendment in section 4 to change the date to June 17th. See, I don't even need it, right? Am I doing it?
Is it showing up now?
Yes.
My
Okay.
apologies.
So I'll make a motion to approve an amendment to resolution number 256-66, correcting the date in section 4 to be June 17th, 2026, and to adopt resolution number 256-66, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Arcata calling for a general municipal election to be held November 3rd, 2026, requesting the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors consolidate the election within with the statewide general election, establishing policies for that election, and requesting the Humboldt County Office of Elections conduct said election as amended. And then should
Second.
we take the second one right now too? Because we know who wants to be on that subcommittee.
My recommendation is to do it separately.
That's what I was going to do.
Okay, so then we are looking for a second.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Schaefer, a second from Councilmember Matthews. All those in favor?
Aye.
I say aye, so motion passes. And now,
And I will also make a motion to appoint Councilmember Stillman and Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar to a subcommittee to draft the primary argument in favor of the transactions and use tax ballot measure and bring it to the council's August 4th, 2026 regular meeting for approval. And if a rebuttal argument is necessary, authorize the subcommittee to draft it and schedule a special meeting before August 26th, 2026 to approve it.
August 4th is Tuesday. Is that?
My apologies. Let me.
so the fifth.
Okay, so
Still the
I'm amending my motion to state the August 5th council meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Schaefer, a second from Councilmember Matthews. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I say aye, so motion passes. Thank you. Okay. So oral and written communications. The city council values your comments. The public comment period allows people to address the council on matters not on the agenda. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Please know that pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on items not listed on the agenda. The council may respond to statements. If you are in person and wanting to give public comment, please line up to the podium, raise your hand if you're on Zoom, webinar, or press *9 now if you are on the phone line and we'd like to make a public comment. When we move to online public comment, I will ask the city clerk how many hands are raised because I know we're going to have a big turnout for that, and we'll proceed to take comment from the number of people called at that time. So, do we have anybody step up to the podium now or forever hold your... Okay, so we're good, we're done, and we're...
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, so that brings us to the city manager report. Does the city manager have anything to report?
Sure, I just have a brief report for you tonight. Just a few things, and you may hear from some of our other council members who attended the Homeless Services Working Group. Some of our partners who provide services for the homeless community and housing really shared a lot of concern at that meeting about some of the changes to federal legislation and the grant funding coming down, and just we're seeing a lot of challenges in moving that money that in the past was used for permanent supportive housing and getting that to the people in need that have been using that. So they shared some concerns, but they also shared a number of ideas on how they could work to keep those people in housing through different ways of maneuvering. Also, we are partnering with Arcata House Partnership, who is submitting a grant through the Continuum of Care and for an encampment resolution fund grant. And so one of the things that we agreed to work with Arcata House to provide some of the services for the encampment resolution to support that grant application. The second item I have is we had Civic Possible this week. I know the council heard a presentation on the economic strategic plan, but I just wanted to share with council a little bit that one of the primary reasons that Civic Possible was here is really to get the engagement of staff and get them on board with what was happening and how the economic strategy was being developed. And so it was a great meeting, very dynamic, and there's a number of exercises and sharing about the process of the development of the economic strategy. And so staff was very interested. There was a lot of engagement. And so I'm optimistic that this plan is really going to be a living document that we'll revisit over and over. So I was really pleased with our consultants with Civic Possible. They did a great job with that. Let's see. And I had the opportunity to present to Rotary today. And it's funny, I gave a brief overview of the budget and explained the sales tax and maybe I shouldn't have, but I got into the county pool and trying to describe how that works and the partitioning of the sales tax. And I was not lost without Tabitha, but it was challenging to explain exactly the mechanics of how that works.
We would all be lost without Tabitha. I think.
Yeah, I should have brought her to that meeting as well, but I wasn't able to call her in time. So, and then lastly, City Hall will be closed this Friday on June 19th in observance of Juneteenth.
Hey, Merritt, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Do you have any update on the fire cleanup?
Yes, thank you. Good reminder. So the contractor who is working for the 3 private property owners that comprise the downtown, the portion of the building, the 3 buildings that were burned, their anticipated start date is on June 6th. We didn't want them to work over the holiday, July 6th. They originally wanted to start a little bit earlier, and it would have been a partial week because we didn't want them to work during the observed holiday. And so they'll be starting immediately after the 4th of July weekend.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I know I saw somebody out there that looked very official with a vest and buckets and putting things in buckets, and it looked like he was testing some stuff. So it made me hoped that it was getting started. So
Yeah, and the second part of that, there's been concern and questions from the community. So I anticipate once they've finalized their hazardous waste removal plan, we'll issue another press release and share some of the best practices that they're using to minimize dust and the spread of any potential contaminants from the site.
Thank you for that update. So that brings us to council reports. All reports shall be specifically limited to items relating to city business and shall not request or lead to action by the city council at this meeting. And how about I start to my right this time?
I feel like I always go first. I'll keep it really short. I had the opportunity to go to the HWMA, Humboldt Waste Management Authority meeting last week. Thank you, Vice Mayor Atkins Salazar, for giving me the opportunity to revisit my own waste stopping grounds. It was very interesting. I think that, I was talking to a council member from a different jurisdiction about how, we're so lucky that we get to serve on our JPAs for our terms, but how, when we rotate off, and when our terms are up or whatnot, there's a lot of historical knowledge lost. And I just think that it's nice to go to another JPA once in a while and see what's going. Really appreciated, like stepping into RCEA. So it's just really good to see what other JPAs are doing. So again, I really appreciated that opportunity. I have my REDAC meeting on Monday. The wastewater treatment plant ribbon cutting, I'm sure we'll all talk about it. Most of us went. Just again, thank you to everybody that worked so hard on that. Thank you to the Chamber. Oyster Fest was amazing. And I think I'm done.
not much in the past to report, and I'm bummed I missed the ribbon cutting. I was still finishing up graduation, but I remember getting to be the person that got to shove the shovel into the ground when I was mayor, 3 years ago. So, exciting day for the city. Tomorrow I will attend Equity Arcata Advisory Committee mini retreat here at City, it's going to be up at Cal Poly. And I'm looking forward to that. And so I'll bring back some info about that. And really the only other thing, next week, there is going to be a community meeting that the Harbor District is hosting at the community center about the offshore wind heavy lift marine terminal project. And so that's going to be at the community center on Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30. So a week from today, community center, future of offshore wind marine terminal, and more to come on other things. And I'm going to miss that meeting, unfortunately, because I'll be out of town. So everybody should tell me about it.
I'm going to miss that meeting too, so we will hear more about that, I believe, from Vice Mayor Atkins Salzer. So go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yes, I do serve on the Community Advisory Committee, and we are the ones hosting that. So I will be there, and we really do. The whole purpose of this is for the public to come, and it won't be just 2 hours of people speaking at you. We will be having a brief introduction about the project so folks can learn about it. And then we have an opportunity for people to go around the room, and at each station, we have experts there to answer questions as well as advisory members from the committee. And then a time for questions and answers. So the purpose of it is to be engaging, really to get questions and concerns answered or brought forward. So please attend. I was also at the ribbon cutting for the wastewater treatment plant at the economic development study session, which I'm very excited about as well. Oyster Fest was amazing, beautiful sunny day. Alex and I had the homeless services meeting today, and I think that's all for me.
So I've actually done the same things that Stacy's done, except I'm not on that committee. But today I was up at the Phillips House Museum when they came to read the meter, and they wanted to come in and turn on the water to see if the meter worked right, because it said it's a low use meter. And so I asked them, well, how are you doing on checking in all the meters? They said, well, I asked them specifically, have you found any that weren't functioning? They said, oh, yes, we have. And I said, what'd you do? Replace them, of course. And I said, well, you're going to make the finance director very, very happy because she's really worried. And so they're just checking any meter that's low usage. Of course, at the Phillips house, we have no one taking showers, no one taking baths, we're not watering. So it's flushing the toilet, washing dishes and so forth. So we're very low using. But I told them we do pay the minimum water bill every month, which is about $87 or something. So I think that's it. Oh, you know, I'm going to say one thing. We are very fortunate that we have our local newspaper, the Arcata Mad River Union. A lot of communities don't have that. And there was an article today in the Chronicle about the importance of having local newspapers and when you have the loss of that, what it can do to your community. So I want to really thank Arcata Mad River Union for staying here and producing a newspaper for us. And as I mentioned, be positive. If you write anything, be positive because that'll make a big difference for us as far as having tourists. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, like the others, I did also attend the wastewater treatment plant ribbon cutting. I will be attending tomorrow the Equity Arcade Advisory Committee mini retreat. I also have a HCOG, the Humboldt County Association of Governments meeting tomorrow. Valley West has a community garden. We had 20 people show up and went from concrete to green space, more to come. Super excited about that. Kuna's going to be hosting a Juneteenth vendor. They're going to be making banana pudding, so I'm super excited about that. Let's see. And Black Humboldt is also an incredible fiscal sponsor, just to add a little plug there for Kuna. I am leaving Monday to Arkansas with the NALIO, which is the National Association for Latino Elected Officials. I will be there for 4 days doing disaster preparedness. And I think that's all I have. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.